So this is Angelo Lobo from Zynga. He's going to take up this session on learnings from creating and running games. So I hand over it to you.
Thank you. Okay, so before I begin, I'll give you guys a brief introduction. Essentially, I'll run you through the three major projects that I've worked on in my life. I started out actually writing for a game magazine called Game Force. I was the chief editor. And then I started working for a company called Rage, Reviews and Gaming Essentials. After that, I moved to a company called Creda, one of the first few companies, game companies in India. And I worked on MMO back in 2006 for a US-based Christian audience specifically. It was called Yahiro. It was biblical. After that, I moved to Games to Win. Perhaps the highlight of my career at Games to Win was a game called Parking Frenzy, which actually hit the #1 spot in the US free apps market. I don't know of any other game made in India that has done that. So we were #1. We beat Angry Birds. We beat some heavy hitters. We were #1 for 3 days, and those were 3 amazing days. And currently, I'm the lead game designer for Farmville 2 from Zynga, India. Okay, so that's me. Now, what I'm going to be going through in this presentation are the 6 learnings that I have got from running live games in India. Before I take you to the learnings, I'll run you through a few basics. So, what is the difference between what we consider normal games versus our free-to-play games? So, your standard normal game has a pre-production, yes? You've got your long production cycle, alpha, beta, gold, at which point in time you have a post-production. Bear in mind, we're talking here about AAA titles, games that you pay an upfront fee for and then you play. So at this point in time, a small number of the team go into post-production where they check the code, they clear up any of the post-release bugs, they release any DLC, and then the entire process is repeated. They either go into a prequel, a sequel, or a new IP. Now, free-to-play is different. In free-to-play, you will see the production to the live cycle is much shorter because we focus on minimum viable product. We're going to release a game that people will have enough content for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month. And while they're playing that content, we'll figure out what they like, what they don't like. We'll improve, we'll add new features. The idea is that your post-production, the cycle where you're supporting your live game, could be a couple of months, it could even be a couple of years, yes? So at Zynga, we've got games like Mafia that has been running for years. Farmville 2 has been running for 2 years. Farmville just completed 5 years, and people are still playing the game, and they're still paying, yeah? So if you hit that spot of being able to support a game for years, that's ideally where you want to get to when you're doing free-to-play games. Now, the credit for the next slide actually goes to a colleague of mine called Mayur Bhimanji. He gave me the idea for this. I don't see him here. Essentially, this is extremely high level, of course, but there are 3 large audiences that you can look from the perspective of how you want to structure your game. The first audience is somebody, if you take TV shows, they watch Game of Thrones. Okay? So, if you're watching Game of Thrones, you can't miss an episode. You have to know exactly what each character does, what their motivations are, who's killed whom, who hates whom, who loves whom. So you're totally vested in the game. Yeah? You play it every day, you know the lore, you know who all the characters are. The second type is somebody who watches Friends. You know the basics. Yes, you know the 6 characters, you know their names, you kind of know what they're up to, but you don't need to see every episode. You don't need to play every day. Yeah? You can pop in, pop out when you like. All you need is a basic understanding of what the game or the TV show is about. And last, I was going to use the analogy of Saturday Night Live, but I was told that maybe not something that's familiar. So, Comedy Nights with Couple or A Coffee with Karan. Yes? These are shows which require absolutely no investment on your part. You can watch episode 10, episode 50, makes no difference because they're self-contained. Yeah? So it's similar to, I'm going to hand you a racing game, I'm going to say play. You're going to say, what's the accelerate, what's the brake? You're not going to say, what are the motivations of each car? Or what's the in-depth backstory behind each level? You don't care. You have to get from point A to point B. Yeah? So these are your largely your large 3 audiences for free-to-play games, and you've got to figure in which slot does my game fit. Okay? So now, onwards to the top 6 learnings that I have gathered in my time working on free-to-play games. Number one, make early rewards meaningful to the player. Now, I'm going to stress the word meaningful for a reason. As game designers, we say, look, the guy's playing our game and we're going to give him XP. We're going to level him up in the first 10 seconds. He's got to press 3 things, he's level 1. We're going to dump all of these lovely coins that he can use, and we're going to dump all of these beautiful stars that he can spend. Yes? So much win. Win moments for the player. Now, I'm going to give you a scientific survey of what your players think of these rewards. They don't care. Yes? Your rewards are not as large as you think they are because I'm not invested in your game. I have just started playing your game. There are a million other games that can hold my attention. Why would I care that you're giving me coins to play in a game that I'm not sure I'm going to be playing tomorrow? Yes? I'm not saying that you shouldn't do this. What I'm saying is everybody does this. Every single game company in the world will say, let's make our first session quick. Let's level them up as soon as possible. Let's have all these duba drops where there are these explosions. What sets you apart from the pack? So, I'm going to give you an example of this, yeah? And this is, when I see something like this, to me it's pure gold. So, you've got standard games in which you have to gather resources, right? Like a farm will. Let me harvest my crops. Now, what do you do with these crops? You sell them. So there'll be a truck, or there'll be a plane, which will say, look, here are the orders I want. And you're like, okay, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this. Sell, get money back. This is not meant to be fun. It is just a loop that allows you to sell and earn virtual coins, right? So I've played a lot of games like this, and I've never really, yeah, okay, he needs tomatoes, I can do that, done. There was a game where it started out by saying that your first order, this is in the first 3 minutes of play, your first order is for a kindergarten, a play school, right? And immediately I'm thinking, okay, classroom, little kids. Now imagine, if you will, there's a large amount of men in the audience, but imagine that you're a 35-year-old lady in Alabama, yes? Your kids are at school, you're missing them, immediately you've got like a mild connect. Okay, play school, I like that. So you send out the order for the play school, and you're expecting your coins back, and you do get them back. But the guy who's delivering the money to you says, you know, the kids at school liked your food so much that they sent you a present. And they'll send you like this little crayon drawing. It must have cost an artist 10 seconds to make. It takes a dev like a minute to integrate. But I'm seeing this beautiful crayon drawing, and as the target audience of this game, as a mother with children, I'm like, this is amazing. These little children out there, I send them eggs, and they send me back something from their hearts, right? This is meaningful, because I'm not going to go on Facebook and tell my friends, today I leveled up. But I'm going to tell, these are talking points for your audience, where they say, today I played a game where I reached out to these little kids, and they sent me this gift back. Yes? It involves you in the game. It makes you feel that I'm not just playing a click simulator. I'm playing a real game. I'm actually sending these goods out to real people, and that's powerful. Yes? So meaningful rewards, not just run-of-the-mill XP, stars, what have you. Number 2, track everything. Now, I can honestly say that this is something Zynga does best of any company I've ever worked at. We track everything. We will do A and B testing up the wazoo, to the point where you're like, just let's bloody release the damn thing, right? I can't test everything, but it helps, and I'll tell you why. You need to, in the pre-production phase, define your data points. How do you expect your players to play the game? How will they consume your game? You need to track the player drop-off points. Yes? Features that are most effective at increasing your DAU, because that's your all-time magical number, my DAU. Your DAU goes up, everything goes up. Features that drive the first purchase. This is extremely important. What made your player buy for the first time, and how can you repeat that behavior? Impact of price modifications. This happens a lot. You'll nerf an object, make it more expensive, make it less. What does that do to your economy? How do your players react to this? And you obviously have to check. You have a funnel. You have your highly engaged players and your casual players. Which cohort is bringing you more money? Who do you concentrate on? Yes? Now, I've put this point in red for a very specific reason. Don't forget the basics. This seems like a no-brainer. Obviously, I'm not going to forget the basics. But I'll tell you a story. I'm not going to mention what game this is, but I will tell you, it hit the top 3 in US. It stayed in the top 3 for months. Yes? When I spoke to somebody who worked in the game, and I asked him, you know, how many people play your game? He's like, I don't know. Because they didn't track the number of people that were playing the mobile game. So what they would do is, when they had their meetings on revenue and DAU, they'd say, look, we know that we've got 200,000 people playing on Facebook. Multiply that by 6, we've got 1.2 million playing on mobile. So they're pulling their numbers out of their ass, right? How could they forget to do something so basic? This was not fixed for the first 6 months of release, not because they didn't want to do it, but because if you say, you know, I'm going to launch and then fix it, because I'll have this magical 1 week where nothing will happen, you're fooling yourself. You launch, and from that very second,